Owning a set of Lego toys is the dream of most children around the world. In the video, a 5.5-year-old Chinese boy, after fighting with his brother over toys and losing, cries while swearing to pick up trash to exchange for money to buy Lego.
我小时候
After I grow up, I'll spend all my pocket money. Can you guess why? Because I wanted Lego. I can also use torn pieces of paper to exchange, sell them for money, and use the money to buy Lego sets that I need and like. If some are expensive, I won't get them. If I save enough money, I can buy some expensive ones.
A father takes his son to the mall. He said that he always felt that he worked hard enough, but he couldn't even afford his son's favorite Lego. His son wanted the Paris Eiffel Tower and the Titanic, but he couldn't afford either of them. It was disappointing for his son. Over a decade, Lego has been popular among Chinese children since entering the Chinese market. In recent years, it has even expanded into the adult circle, becoming a way for the middle class to show off wealth. The blogger in the video says, over a decade ago, Lego focused its marketing efforts in the Chinese market on education, brain development, and learning assistance. They extensively incorporated their products into various educational institutions' curricula, cooperated with primary and secondary schools, and well-known universities. By being helpful for learning, they immediately struck a chord with Chinese parents. Conquering the children's market was not enough. In recent years, Lego has shifted its focus to adult users, synchronizing many popular IP series loved by adults and giving them social attributes. Showing off with Legos became a trend. There's even a saying, a Lego wall equals a house in Beijing. Lego has thus transformed from ordinary toys into a luxury item that can be flaunted. Founded in 1932, Lego is a globally renowned toy manufacturer based in Denmark. On May 12th this year, the Lego manufacturer stated that Lego's performance in China in 2023 was difficult. Lego CEO Niels Christensen said it was due to the increasingly difficult overall economic situation in China. He said, consumers still buy Lego sets but have been more reserved. They usually choose lower-priced sets and buy fewer than before. Lego toys entered the Chinese market more than 60 years after Lego was founded. In 2007, the first Lego independent brand store in mainland China opened at Beijing's China World Mall. In 2008, another Lego brand store opened at Shanghai Zhongshan Park Cloud 9 shopping mall. However, the comprehensive seizure of the Chinese market began in 2016. On April 2, 2016, the first Lego Discovery Center on mainland China opened at Parkside Plaza at Changfeng in Shanghai, which is now renamed as Changfeng Joy City. 7 months later, the first Lego Park in China announced its location in Qingpu, Shanghai. That year, the world's largest Lego flagship store settled in Shanghai Disney Resort, also the first Lego retail store operated directly by the company. On November 25, 2016, the Lego Jiaxing factory was officially put into operation for the packaging of Lego products. On March 25, 2017, the first Lego authorized store in China officially opened at the Dalian Century Shopping Mall on Shiji Boulevard in Shanghai. Although the ribbon-cutting ceremony wouldn't take place until 11 a.m., Lego lovers have been lining up at the door since 8 a.m. An hour before opening, the entrance was already packed. And that day, the highest global Lego store single-day sales record was set in Shanghai. On May 13th of the same year, Kidsland's Lego store opened at the Joy City in Beijing, triggering a frenzy among Lego lovers in Beijing. And the single-day sales record of Lego in China was once again broken that day. The enthusiasm of Chinese consumers has shown Lego plenty of business opportunities. Since 2019, Lego has begun to extend its group business to 3rd and 4th tier cities in China. As of 2022, Lego has 904 stores worldwide, nearly 400 of which are in China. Of the new stores opened globally, more than 70% are in China. In 2020, Lego opened 134 new stores, 91 in China. In 2021, they opened 165 new stores with 95 in China, 15 more than planned. In 2022, Lego opened 155 new stores, 95 in China, and in 2023, opened 147 new stores, mainly in China. LEGO CEO Christensen said the number of LEGO stores worldwide has exceeded 1,000, and it is expected to open about 100 more in 2024. For the past 17 years, LEGO has been deeply involved in the Chinese market, achieving tremendous success. Its coverage has expanded from Beijing and Shanghai to over 100 cities. But LEGO's growth momentum reversed in 2023. Due to China's economic recovery falling short of expectations, waves of unemployment, pay cuts, and business closures swept across the country, leading to a trend of downgraded consumption. The high prices of LEGO made many people hesitate to buy. Christensen said that despite LEGO's declining sales in China in 2023, its consumer sales increased by 4% last year, driven by strong growth in the United States, Central Europe, and Eastern Europe. On the US side, I think we've seen very, very strong progress, Christensen said. In 2023, it wasn't just LEGO that struggled in China. With a large number of middle-class people returning to poverty, the market that previously supported the entire luxury and affordable luxury consumer goods market shrank across the board.
有钱人也没钱了。
Rich people are also running out of money. Luxury goods that have skyrocketed for several years are now stuck on shelves. A classic Rolex GMT Master watch has dropped from 250,000 yuan to 150,000 yuan. YSL and Gucci saw their third quarter revenue decline by 12% and 7% in 2023, was the largest drop in the Chinese market. The LVMH group reported third quarter revenue of 20 billion euros, lower than the market's expected 21.1 billion euros, and the growth rate is lower than the 19% in the same period in 2022. The financial reports of luxury giants have filled the entire luxury goods industry with pessimism. After all, the rapid growth of the global luxury goods market in the past 10 years has been largely caused by the active consumption of Chinese people. Many Chinese people went abroad to shop, becoming the largest financial backers of local luxury stores. Over the past decade, China's consumer market has been dominated by people who value brands and love to spend, and young people have become a main force of consumption. Among them, excessive consumption and overdraft consumption are very common, and foreign investors are optimistic about the Chinese consumer market. The reason is that they believe China's middle class will be a reliable source of consumption growth, because the CCP itself claims that there are 400 million middle-income people in China, and this number will expand to 800 million by 2035. But everything changed dramatically in 2022. With the lingering pandemic and the economy and employment continuing to be sluggish, the income of many white-collar workers has greatly reduced, with many losing their jobs. However, debts and living costs remain high. The middle class in China is shrinking, and many people have even returned to poverty. This is confirmed by the wave of supply cutoffs across China and the decline in consumption of luxury goods.
以前我都特别不能理解中产返贫这件事儿。
Before, I couldn't understand the phenomenon of the middle class returning to poverty. But last year, many people around us had already reached this state, including many executives I know who used to earn an annual salary of 700,000 or 800,000. I wonder how could these people have no money? After earning so much money for many years, where did all the money go? Until one day, a high-level executive from Alibaba said, "No one would have guessed such a large company like Alibaba would suddenly fail or collapse, or lay off employees all at once." He believed that his income was very, very stable, so he bought houses ranging from 8 million to over 10 million. The monthly mortgage was probably around 20 to 30,000 yuan. His children also went to good schools, and the cars he drove were worth 700,000 or 800,000, or over 1 million yuan. Now, after being laid off, oh my God, the hole in his finances is 70 to 80,000, or 80 to 90,000 a month, and he doesn't have much money left in his hands, and he can't afford the mortgage or anything else. I couldn't understand it before, but now I finally understand that it's because their consumption habits have changed, resulting in the current situation. So the best life is to live without debts.
But in China, having no debt in hand is exactly the life most middle-class and lower-class people are least likely to lead.
在未来的5年里，
In the video, this financial blogger said, In the next 5 years, 50 million middle-class families in China will suddenly fall back into poverty, with no chance of recovery. Let's interpret a few sets of data. First, 80% of household wealth in our country comes from real estate. The decline in property prices is closely related to the wealth of every household. Second, 75% of our country's liabilities comes from loans when buying houses. At the same time, mortgage loans are also the main source of income for major banks. Third, 65% of the collateral for loans in Chinese banks is land and real estate. The decline in housing prices directly affects the value of assets held by banks. In 2023, the upward cycle of China's real estate market came to an end. After the pandemic, economic recovery fell short of expectations, and housing prices continued to plummet. The price drops in many cities ranged from 10 to 30% or more. In first-tier cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, many families' main assets are their houses. These families' huge assets are all built on the basis of high property prices. With the downward trend in the real estate market, a large number of houses have been reduced in price, sold at discounts, and some are even difficult to sell. The middle class has entered poverty mode because their houses were bought with loans. According to overseas economic research, the crisis in the Chinese real estate market is severely affecting the country's middle class, with over 70% of household assets tied to real estate. For every 5% drop in property prices, housing wealth disappears by 19 trillion yuan, which is about 2.7 trillion US dollars. In addition to reduction in house values, many middle-class people are also facing the shrinkage of their stock investments. During the recent stock market crash, within just 8 days, the capital that was liquidated exceeded 430 billion yuan. And the leveraged funds liquidated exceeded 600 billion yuan, resulting in a total asset loss of over 1 trillion yuan. The number of active A-share accounts decreased from 239 million in August 2023 to 211 million in November, and further dropped to 170 million by February 2024. In just 6 months, a total of 69 million accounts were wiped out. In 2023, China's youth unemployment rate hit record highs. Among young people aged 16 to 24, the urban unemployment rate reached 21.3%, a figure still considered severely underestimated. The National Bureau of Statistics temporarily stopped publishing the youth unemployment rate for the past 4 months. For the middle class in China, over the past few decades of so-called reform and opening up, wealth accumulation has mainly relied on real estate. The economic collapse has led to a reduction in their sources of income, substantial devaluation of properties, and loss of transaction liquidity, resulting in the current plight of the middle class. Some scholars say, if the lower class couldn't afford to eat before, now they can't afford even more. The middle class used to live a privileged life, traveling abroad every year, buying imported food, sending their children to private tutors, learning piano, attending extracurricular classes, and even planning to send their children abroad in the future. But in this current environment, without a stable source of income or a stable future outlook, the entire plan collapses. A large portion of consumption comes from the middle class, while the upper class are still a tiny minority, less than 1%. So the piano, luxury watches, and antiques market will all collapse.
中产阶级的重要标志钢琴已经崩了。
The piano, a significant symbol of the middle class, has already collapsed. Last year, at least half of piano manufacturers went out of business. The second-hand market is also struggling. The used pianos that used to sell for tens of thousands of yuan can't even fetch 5,000 now. 10 years ago, there were too many piano students to enroll, and whether a student had talent or not was a consideration. Now, fewer and fewer children are learning the piano, and even if they do, making a career out of it is unrealistic. Do you know how many children were learning the piano during the peak period in China? A whopping 40 million. That's 80% of the global total. A significant factor contributing to the downturn in the piano market is that middle-class families can no longer afford the luxury of playing the piano. Messages circulating on social media in mainland China are also reflective of the fact that luxury cars, luxury watches, and pianos are currently experiencing significant price drops and market declines. Reports from Chinese media outlets like Jiemian News suggests that the mainland piano industry has entered a severe downturn, with both sales volume and piano prices falling, and a noticeable decrease in the number of piano players. In 2023, more than half of dealerships and piano stores had shut down. Some industry insiders say that piano sellers now only achieve about 15% of the sales they did in previous years, and most factories are barely breaking even. The training market is also facing difficulties in recruiting students, with only half of the number of students compared to peak periods. Industry insiders openly admit that this is related to the decline in middle-class incomes in recent years. During this trend of the middle class returning to poverty, it's not only the young and middle-aged people who will be affected, but also their next generation. Recently, an article titled "The Children of the Middle Class Have No Future" has been circulating online. The author claims to be a former employee of Huawei and recounts a conversation with two former colleagues from Huawei at a party. The article has resonated with many Chinese people, but was soon banned online. The author said they first talked about the Huawei Mate 60 series. A colleague from Shanghai revealed that the 7nm chips for these phones comes from SMIC, headquartered in Shanghai. Although they can be produced, the yield rate is very low. It only solves the problem of having a chip, but it's completely unable to compete in the market. The Shanghai colleague mentioned that last year was tough, with sales across the entire industry declining. Work became very stressful, but what worried him the most was his son in the second grade of junior high school. His son used to be a good student, but the educational rat race in Shanghai is too intense. Gradually, his son couldn't find a sense of achievement in his studies and gradually became tired of studying. When his son heard that graduates from prestigious universities couldn't find jobs and master's and doctoral students were being admitted with reduced salaries, he suddenly came to a realization. One night, his son said to him, "You graduated from a prestigious university with a master's degree. Now that you are this age, don't you work overtime until late every day? If I cannot get into a good university, I'll only end up worse off than you." The Shanghai colleague with a master's degree from a prestigious university earns 1,000,000 yuan annually. He had only recently bought a sky-high priced school district house in Shanghai. But when he considered the price of the house at the time of purchase compared to the current steep prices in Shanghai, he realized his son had a point. If he had just graduated with a master's degree now, he would probably still be living with his parents. After discussing this with his wife, the Shanghai colleague agreed to let his son experience life whilst continuing to study. So his son would deliver takeout on his bicycle after school every day, completing around 10 orders, and the money he earned became his pocket money. Since then, the parent-child relationship has improved dramatically. While talking, the Shanghai colleague opened his phone to show the delivery app to his friends. Regarding his son's future, the Shanghai colleague said, "My son is only 14 years old right now. Maybe when he's a little older, he'll learn a craft or some skills to support himself. Otherwise, what else can he do?" A colleague from Zhejiang added, "The competition is really intense now. Do you know what kind of educational qualifications Huawei requires for recruitment now? It's all from Tsinghua University, Peking University, and other national key universities, or those who studied abroad, many of them from Ivy League schools. Even if you're from a key national university, you might not even make it into Huawei." The Shanghai colleague said that he is allowing his son to deliver takeout and not forcing him to study excessively for another reason. 20 years ago, graduates from ordinary schools could still find jobs. But since ChatGPT became popular, how many people would be laid off? And with the emergence of Sora, unless you excel academically all the way to the top, the future would still remain uncertain. According to previous statements by the CCP, by 2024, the size of China's middle-income group will reach at least 560 million people. With such a large group, including their children, facing a bleak future, what does this mean for those in the lower class and their offspring? Many netizens said, If middle-class children have no future, then do others have it? The starting point for middle-class children has already surpassed over 90% of the people in China. If middle-class children don't have a future, then no children in China do. Another commented, so where does the future of the Chinese lie? A netizen said, studying hard, getting high-paying jobs, competing in social status, competing in education. It's a rat race. For those who aren't good at studying, getting an early start in the workforce, doing manual labor like food delivery or driving for ride-hailing apps is also a rat race. Honestly, it's already very difficult for children from ordinary families to escape this fate. Previous data showed that nearly 600 million people in China have a monthly income of less than 1,000 yuan, and 900 million people have a monthly income of less than 2,000 yuan. So how can there be such a large middle class? What is the standard for the middle income group as claimed by the CCP? According to the CCP standards, individuals with a monthly income ranging from 2,780 yuan to 13,900 yuan are considered middle income, a surprisingly low threshold. This means that many of China's middle class are actually faux middle class. They are a vulnerable and awkward group. With the economic downturn and increasing unemployment, the consumption concepts and patterns of Chinese people have changed. Urban white-collar workers and the middle class are passively experiencing downgraded consumption, while those born in the 1990s and 2000s actively pursue minimalism. Saving money is key, and don't consume unless necessary has become a model. If the Chinese consumption pattern changes permanently, it's not just bad news for foreign investors who are optimistic about China's huge consumer market, but also a fatal blow to the future growth of the Chinese economy. Because China's economy can no longer rely on investment and exports to sustain high economic growth, it must shift to a consumption-led economic growth model. However, when the huge consumer group of the middle class is tightening their belts, it means that this economic transition cannot succeed.